Today on Podcast Demastered, we discuss what features and genres from gaming define us. So join us for a brand new episode right now. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 6 of the podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Meyer, and I'm joined, as always, by my two very good friends, Wade and Chelsea. We got a good show today with the party chat topic that I'm personally really excited about. But before all that, let's circle the wagons here and talk about some of the more noteworthy, whatever, things that happened. Things that happened since we last recorded, because it's actually been a while with the holiday break. I guess the biggest thing of note is the release of Black Widow in theaters and also on Disney Plus. And most of us have seen it. So, Wade, what's your take on that film?
My take on Black Widow is that I loved it. There is
what a surprise!
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, no,
I don't really
it actually was really good.
It really was. Like, it was a nice story. It was right there. Everything was nice and in place. Very, let's move it. The action was great. I mean, it's a Black Widow movie, so you'd think it would be. And it was I feel it was a great send-off for Scarlett Johansson, the whole character, with plenty of stuff to look forward to in the future as well.
Yeah, Chelsea, what about you? What are your you're the other one that's seen it. What are your takeaways?
Yes. So, as I mentioned previously, I tried to go in this movie with really low expectations and tried actually not have expectations, but I will say it's definitely worth a watch. It was quite enjoyable. I definitely think it, definitely adds more character development to Natasha. It was great to see. Lots of good action. It was pretty well paced. I liked a lot of the characters that, she interacts with and everything, so I think that's really cool. My, of course, biggest problem with this movie was that I had a problem with it being, released now. I just feel like it doesn't do her character justice, having this movie, after the fact, after Endgame. And I know I kind of mentioned the stuff before, yeah, Ethan, I think it was just our made-up theory we had that I was switched with Captain Marvel, but really should have come out, before. And right. I think her death and stuff would have, I feel like had more of an impact by having this movie. And this movie also could have been the first of a couple for Black Widow, but we don't really get that opportunity with Natasha's character, I feel like. So I think that's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, that's also, you mentioned that, it's kind of weird because I did see that the director came out in an interview saying that they would like to do more Black Widow stories. I just don't really see how that's possible or necessary. Either or.
Well, I can understand them doing it with some of the other characters that were brought up in the movie, and
right.
We can go into some spoilers and everything by being that there's like a ton of the characters that were in the program, and all these really cool characters that they'll probably bring them together. And they could make their own, lots of, in a way, many Black Widows or something.
Right. Yeah, without getting too heavy on these spoilers, just because I guess it is still fairly new. It's not even been out a week yet. I'm assuming it's Natasha's sister, or somehow are they just widow sisters, not actually what's their relationship in the film? And my second part to that question is, does this film do anything to set a future up for her?
They're not real sisters. They're kind of widow sisters, but they were undercover agent family, when they were little kids, after Natasha had been through the program. And then Yelena went in it after this mission was completed, and their little make-believe family kind of broke up. But the movie does create a future for Yelena.
Yes, I would agree with that.
What do you guys think of that character introduction and her portrayal and everything? Does it work?
if she's not your favorite character in the movie, then I don't know what the hell you're doing.
No, she's a good character.
Yeah.
I liked her. I like the actress. She did a good job.
Oh yeah.
I mean, except, we could get a little nitpicky about how she somehow magically has a super thick, fake Russian accent, but, she worked with it.
She did.
Yes.
What about the? I always forget the actor's name, but he plays Hopper on Stranger Things. If you guys know that show. Is he? What's his superhero character's name? Red Guardian? Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's
Yes.
the Red Guardian. He's
Yeah.
basically Russian's version of Captain America, like Super
Right.
Soldier and all.
Right.
Yeah.
Is he essentially just the comedic relief in this film? Because that's kind of how like the marketing made it set up to be.
Sort of, but not squarely.
I personally thought he was the most annoying character in that movie.
Oh,
That's
for sure. I mean,
yeah.
I think he isn't like, as Natasha put in the movie, he's an idiot. He's Russian brainwashed, and he doesn't really think too far into the deeper meaning of things. So
He's
like,
narcissist.
yeah, for sure.
My other curiosity that I had before this film came out, and I haven't seen all this stuff on Twitter and a lot of fan reaction. It doesn't seem like Taskmaster is being one of the highlights of the film as a character.
So
I've seen a
with
lot of
all
people
things,
saying that he was squandered.
if you're like a huge Taskmaster fan, then I could see why you'd think that. But like, as always, you need to come into the MCU movies without expectations of how like things are going to happen, just purely based off the comics. So it was just another of those issues where you find out like who Taskmaster is, and people feel that really ruined the character.
Right. I guess for me, I don't. Me going into the film, I don't have any of those comic origins that I'm like looking to make comparisons to. I'm looking at it as just like a film fan, and I like really good villains. Is he at least a good villain in the film? Even if he's not like comic accurate?
He's a good villain for the story that is being told in there, like to foil Natasha and her past and stuff.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a Marvel villain. Yeah.
If that made any sense.
Chelsea said it's a Marvel villain, so that lowers my expectations quite a bit. So...
He's not the big bad in the villain, or he's not the big bad in the movie.
Okay.
He's in the movie like throughout the movie, but he's not. He's a henchman. He's not the villain.
So there's someone pulling the.
Taskmaster's not the villain anyway.
So there's someone pulling the strings. That is that reveal interesting, or is it just kind of like some sort of like shadow corporation kind of deal?
It's just kind of basic, but it makes sense
Again,
for the story.
it's all tied to Natasha's story.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Would you guys recommend it for people to go watch, or to pay the $30 for Disney Plus, or is it like a wait and see kind of thing, or what is your guys' final review?
I think
I
it's
would.
worth the watch.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. You guys here, listeners, you heard it here first. Go go watch Black Widow.
And Ethan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we'll talk offline. You guys can ruin the film for me, and I'll save the $30.
Okay, that's fine.
So another Disney property that came out this past week was the Monsters Inc. Spin-off TV show that's exclusive to Disney Plus. That's called Monsters at Work. I know Chelsea and I have watched it. Chelsea, what are your first impressions for this new show?
Big sigh there. That's my reaction. Disappointment. Now, sure, I didn't have like any expectations for the show. I was just like, oh, Monsters Inc., this little show, that should be fun. Well, first off, the animation is pretty bad. And it's very noticeable because, like, you expect, at least some type of quality animation because it's based on a Pixar property, but of course Pixar is really not directly involved with this, so that really shows not just in the animation but in the characters. And I think the one shiny moment I will mention now is the fact that they were able to bring a lot of the original voice actors into the show. So that's pretty
Well,
cool.
that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean they have John Goodman, Jennifer Tilly, Billy Crystal. It was also confirmed that John Ratzenberger or whatever, who voiced the Yeti in Monsters Inc., he'll be in the show at some point.
That's awesome.
And I don't remember the guy's name, but the voice actor that did Roz, he was also in it. So it does have a lot of the kind of the fan favorites from the original Monsters Inc. and Monsters University to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
My initial takeaway was it was really nice seeing that the some of the OG cast made a comeback, but watching the show and just kind of listening to the delivery of some of the dialogue, I don't know if I'm sure it's partly the script's fault, but a lot of the delivery of their lines seems like tired, like they're just not into it, and it kind of lacks that bravado that they put forward into with the movies. Because like John Goodman's Sully seems like he was half asleep when he was delivering all of his dialogue.
Gosh.
And also Sully as a character looks horrendous. Chelsea, you mentioned it, the animation, the hair modeling, all that stuff just looks rough.
The lip syncing is so bad.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, especially for Sully.
It's not great. It's definitely something, Chelsea and you and I kind of talked about this offline. Mm-hmm. It seems like a show that would make perfect sense as like a Disney Channel, like something you'd see on Disney Channel for, on their Disney XD or whatever. Mm-hmm. I guess with the idea of it being like this, the thing for Disney Plus, I had a little higher expectations in terms of quality, just because it was going to be like this big feature for the streaming platform as opposed to just some swill they throw on Disney Channel. But it lacks all of that. I feel like bringing back the old characters was kind of good for marketing sense, but I feel like it almost makes the show worse because I feel like those old actors just didn't care about putting in a good performance. Like Billy Crystal's fine. Billy Crystal's Billy Crystal. Mm-hmm. I feel like he's not acting. I feel like he's just being Billy Crystal. So that kind of works. But the rest of them it seems like they kind of just like came in, read everything in 30 minutes, and then left and never thought about it ever again. And that's kind of how it's. Some of the new characters are very hit or miss. In fact, I think the lead character's not good at all. And his whole story is, it's. I mean, the worst thing about the show is the writing. It's very. It seems like,
and the animation.
Yeah, I mean the animation.
The writing is very bad.
The animation for I feel like just like a casual viewer is fine or passable. Chelsea being like somebody who really appreciates animation and like studies it and looks into it in detail, like he's gonna notice all of these funky things. I think your average viewer, especially a kid or whatever, it's not like horrendous where it's like an insult to the eyes, but it's definitely not. It's more noticeable because you do have Monsters Inc. and Monsters University to compare it to, and it just looks not the same.
Relating to the new main character, yeah, he's pretty just kind of blah. And I think it's really weird. So the voice actor is Ben Feldman, who was recently on the show Superstore, and his character that he plays in this show is very similar to the character he played on Superstore. And so it's very weird just watching him being like the new guy and just being like, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, and then being like, oh, you're not. And he's also slightly annoying. I came to find his character like charming on Superstore, but so far on Monsters at Work, it's just annoying.
And I guess it's also important to point out that I don't know how long this show is, like how many episodes they have scheduled. So far, there's only 2. They dropped 2 when it came out, so we're talking about literally just the first 2 episodes. The show, maybe
Yes.
the writing, or it goes in interesting directions, but so far, with all pilot episodes for something, it's a little tedious because it's a lot of just establishing characters and just like the groundwork for the storyline. Episode 2 I felt was worse than the first one, just because it kind of fell into this weird loop where the writing was so like something would happen visually and then a character would basically reiterate what just happened orally in case you just didn't catch it. And that became very just annoying because it's just like, yeah, I can see what's happening. You don't have to literally. It's like they were almost looking at the audience and explaining like, hey, this just happened and this is gonna happen next. It was like pandering. Like it was.
Oh my god.
The second episode
sad.
was quite bad. There was a couple funny lines here and there. There's one specific character that just has a couple toss away lines that kind of get a giggle, little peppering of some dark humor in there, but it lacks the Pixar charm and it lacks the Pixar quality. So I would not recommend it to like people our age who are fans of like the original property, but it's perfectly fine for kids or whatever.
Yeah, although to be honest, I think some kids would honestly find it boring.
Yeah, I mean, the first 2
But
episodes.
it's up to what. Yeah.
Yeah, the first 2 episodes, the kind of like closed episode arcs aren't super interesting, and there's not a lot happening. So, in terms of just like excitement, or I mean, really any sort of like conflict at all. So, I don't know. But like I said, 2 episodes in, this thing could be. I don't know how many it's scheduled to have. It could have 20 episodes. I don't know. It could go places.
I think it's supposed to have 10.
Yeah.
They could always change that.
So yeah, it's a fluid thing, but yeah, initial impressions are mediocre at best, I would say. So.
Yep.
So yeah, and so moving on from that show, we move on to a really good show that had its penultimate episode, and that was Loki.
Crazy.
Oh man.
Wade, I'll go to you first. What was your initial reaction to the penultimate episode of Loki?
I don't even know where to start. Like, it wasn't like a huge, like, mind-blowing, holy crap episode. Like, they didn't, like, drop any major bombs or anything like that. The huge collection of the variant Lokis and all their, like, fun different forms and stuff like that was just great to see. And kind of seeing, like, where the finale's going to take us. Like, there's just... It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of good stuff in the episode there.
Yeah, I feel like this is when the Easter egg department was like, "Hey, let's just drop everything in this episode."
Did you hear about the big one that Marvel said no to?
I did not. What was the big one?
On?
Apparently, the writers of the episode tried a bajillion times to write in Batman anywhere in the episode.
What?
And Marvel kept scratching it out. They kept saying, "Nope, stop it, get out. Why are you doing this?"
I mean, I'm a huge Batman fan, and that seems very dumb. So...
That would just be weird.
Like, I've seen so many breakdowns. It's like, oh, all the Easter eggs, and it's just like 15 pages of just like random nonsense that was thrown into that episode from the
for sure
the Thanos copter.
There's so much nonsense.
The frog and the what is it? The Divine Tribunal, is that what it's called? Like that was in there, and Quang or King Tower instead of Stark. Like it's nonsense. There's so much. And ultimately it's all just throwaway. I'm sure it has enough. I doubt it has anything that means anything moving
Just
forward.
fun.
It's just fun nonsense. Do you guys have a favorite variant from the episode?
Oh. Vote President Loki.
President Loki?
Yeah, because like they put him in the trailer,
Yeah.
so people were freaking out about it, and it's like, nope, he was there for like 20 seconds, and he got his hand bitten off, and it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I do like that they kind of like pulled the rug out, but not in like such a awful way that it pisses fans off. But it's all like, oh yeah, this is just a completely variant. It's not the show's Loki. It's just some other random Loki. So
Right.
I kind of did like that. I thought that was kind of funny. I really dug classic Loki. I thought just as his character and like his powers and just like some of his like dialogue and him talking about how he tricked Thanos. Like I thought that was really really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really like Richard Grant as an actor. I thought that was perfect.
Oh yeah, it was great to like get to see him in something like that.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Chelsea, what were your takeaways from the show?
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I liked the original Loki, and I still like her core characters. It was good to see them all together, and yeah, I mean it was a fine episode. I don't have too much to say about it. I wasn't super into like being super excited about seeing all the different Loki variants and everything, but
If anything, that's gonna be the popular Halloween theme this year. Is everyone's just gonna be a variant Loki?
Heck
I
yeah.
could just
Well,
man.
I think
yes.
like calling it
I think
now.
the point that the show's trying to make is that we're really all variant Loki on the inside. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There
I
you go.
also,
That's
I was kind of joking with Chelsea earlier in the week that this is the episode that took all the budget for the show because damn,
No kidding.
they had a lot of stuff going on.
yeah.
A lot of special effects. The void, apocalyptic, weird kind of wasteland world looked incredible. Way better than that planet that they were on later, or earlier on in the season that looked really bad in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like this
Oh,
episode,
it was bad.
special effects wise, looked amazing, and then the Tempest and all that stuff was just really impressive. And classic Loki building Asgard, like a spectral Asgard, like all that stuff looked really good. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, all in all, it was a really good penultimate episode because it did kind of leave like this weird sort of teaser thing, like, oh, who's behind the veil, who's in the castle, who's pulling the strings. If I had to nitpick it all, I feel like the judge, what's her name, Ravana or Revana or whatever, I feel like that kind of just, she kind of just, that storyline, that arc kind of just spun in place, like nothing really. She's just like, oh, I want to figure it out, and it's just kind of like, okay, cool, we all do. So,
Congratulations, everybody! You're with
Like-
everybody
now.
else
Yeah.
now.
yeah, like her intentions or like I get it, they're trying to like pull us along, and she's supposed to be mysterious, but it gets to a point where I'm just like, I don't really know what you are part of the show for anymore. Like I don't like your purpose is starting to wane thin a little bit. So I was really glad that Mobius came back. Wade, I think you called it. You said that it would happen. So I'm glad getting more Owen Wilson. It's always a good thing. Yeah, all in all, I really liked it. Do you guys have theories on who's in the castle? Do you even want to like theorize that? I feel like the internet's already going crazy, and from Doctor Doom to Kang the Conqueror to whoever, drop in whatever mysterious figure you want.
I'll take a guess, because why not, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's another variant of Loki. I think the show is just going to keep it simple. It's been about Loki from the beginning. Might as well be about Loki at the end. It's about variants. It's one season. All these other, Marvel shows we've seen so far, we haven't seen any of these big reveals yet, and I don't think this is going to be the first show to do that. So I'm just keeping my expectations low and just keeping to what we already have going on in the show. It's just another variant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you in terms where I don't think it's gonna. This is the show that's gonna have some huge reveal that has ramifications moving forward into the grander, you know, MCU universe. I just don't think that's what their plan is for any of these shows. So the idea that they're gonna reveal Doctor Doom or King the Conqueror seems very far fetched, and I'm tired of getting my hopes up for that kind of shit because it's ruining these shows when I do that. So, so yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be something that's smaller, more contained. Variant Loki, sure. It could even be a different version of Sylvie or something. Maybe her Nexus event is that she ruins time. Like, who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I'm kind of on the train where I'm like, I don't even want to put some of these bigger figures in that castle because it's just gonna break my heart when that doesn't happen. So, yeah, yeah, it's cool to see this giant castle behind the veil, and it's like, oh my god, that's Doctor Doom's castle. They're finally gonna do it. And it's just like, no, they're not. They're not doing it. Like,
Everybody just needs to calm down.
Exactly, right?
Everything in its time. It'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean, all in all, I feel like this has, like, if they can nail the ending, I feel like this has probably been the best Marvel show out of the three, in my humble opinion. I just think, the writing has been on point. I mean, even the episode that I didn't like as much, it wasn't like so awful that it ruins anything. It was just more like there was so much so much stuff going on that my expectations kept getting higher and higher, and that episode kind of just like brought me back down to reality a little bit. So, but all in all, I feel like the show has been absolutely fantastic. So, so yeah, one episode left. Just a couple days. All the questions will be answered, or not.
Hopefully
Or
some of them
not.
will be.
Or not. So, either way, I'm excited for it. Can't wait to finish it off. Does anyone know when the next, like, it's Hawkeye, right? Hawkeye's the next one.
Well, what if is in August,
What
but
if?
Well,
if
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to count that, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm super excited for What If. I think that's just gonna be fun, and that's just gonna be a bunch of nonsense that I'm all about. I do think if it's successful, they should do What If for other properties. I've seen a lot of people talking about they should do What If for Star Wars. I think that would be awesome. So hopefully What If gets the numbers they're looking for and works, because I think that's a really cool premise to kind of go nuts with for a lot of IP. So, but yeah, I guess Hawkeye's the next live action Marvel show.
And that's like,
Isn't it like
I don't think there's an
September?
actual date. I think it's later than that.
Yeah, so we there's gonna be quite the gap. I mean, there's Black Widow, Shang-Chi will be before then, I think.
September 3rd?
Yeah, for Shang-Chi
Yep.
is September 3rd. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
And then Eternals in November and Spider-Man in December.
Jam-packed.
when do you guys think we're gonna get that Spider-Man trailer? I feel like we've gotten a trailer for literally everything besides that.
Never.
Maybe by the end of the month. Who knows?
No trailer, just go watch the movie. They can get away with
That would
it.
be
It's fine.
wild.
That would be. I mean,
It could work, but
I feel like if they don't have a trailer by August or September, like before like Shang-Chi, I feel like they're doing it because they're hiding something
Could be.
and they don't want to like, because if it is some big crazy nonsense movie that has, and let's say like at least half the rumors are true, it's going to be really hard to skirt away from that even with marketing, and I doubt that they would want to do that before a lot of these other big tentpole movies come out.
Mm-hmm.
But if all that stuff's bullshit, then there's no reason they can't drop a trailer whenever, is my take on it. Like, they could drop one next month, and if it's just another Spider-Man adventure, then why not? But if it's some crazy nonsense, I can see them trying to play it tight to the chest, you know.
I can see that. Wow. They could always just release something, you know, kind of like annoyingly artsy, you know, like with some like VO and then like close up like different angles of Spider-Man's suit, and that's all we get.
Or they could do what films used to do, where the trailers have footage that's not even in the movie.
Oh, they still do
There
that.
you go.
They still do that, but it's just not as like, I feel like it's not as prevalent as like it used to be, where it's like you see a trailer and like none of that shit's in the movie.
Way to mess with fans, just put all those
Yeah.
things that were all the rumors in the trailer and it not be in the movie.
It's funny that you say that, because every trailer for every Evangelion ever, like anything that's Evangelion, every trailer is always like that. Like the entire trailer is not in the movie.
I mean, honestly, if I was Marvel, I would almost like get people together and just film a trailer and have nothing to do with the film, just to throw people off the scent, you know. And like make the filming of that stuff like super, like don't even keep it secret, like so people are like, oh, I saw so and so on set. Did you see this? Oh my god, they're doing this, and it's just all for the trailer. That would be my marketing strategy.
Oh man.
So yeah, a lot of Marvel stuff coming. They're finally, you know, starting to hit their cadence again, which has been good. It's been 2 years since a Marvel film was in, like an actual film. You know, so it's nice to finally kind of get back into that groove. So that's exciting. Do you guys have any other takeaways from Marvel in general or Loki before we move on to the party chat?
I'm good.
Nope.
Nope. All right.
All good.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Today's party chat is kind of a different one. It's a little bit more suited to us as individuals. It's also taking it back to gaming. We're going to be talking about the games that define us, and by that I mean what about a game speaks to us as the player that kind of draws in our interest and kind of exemplifies what makes us like a fan of that. Like, you know, you should be able to look at something and be like, oh, that's totally an Ethan game because it has this in it, or it has this sort of mechanic, or it's this, you know, it's this genre, so that's something he would totally dig, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So we're kind of just going to go around and just kind of talk about, you know, I don't know, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys have multiple things? You want to do like twice around, or you just have, you know, how many things do you have that define you?
Man, I don't know. Like, for my answer is just, it's not like a straightforward answer, I think. It just kind of depends. Like, there's so many things that could point me in the direction of a game. Like, for me, because I've been gaming for, you know, since I was big enough to hold a controller. A lot of times games are just simply franchise things for me.
Right.
Like, oh, a new Final Fantasy game comes out, new Pokemon game comes out, Super Smash Bros., whatever, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm there. Like, they already got me. It's fine. But then when other games come up, there are some factors that they have a stronger chance of me either buying or completing the game, because sometimes those are two completely different things.
Right.
As I think we all know how that goes.
Yeah, I guess it's important to note that these aren't the things that are the only aspect that makes us like who we are as gamers, because, you know, like Wade was saying, he's very much into like franchises. For me, I can't think of a single genre I haven't played besides maybe dating simulators.
Ethan Meyer.
I know, right? Well, I actually thought about playing Dream Daddy, which is a dating sim, but you know, I didn't feel like paying it was like $4.99 on iPhone or some shit. So, but I pretty much like, I'll dip my toes into most things, but there's 100% certain aspects or mechanics or whatever that immediately draw my interest, and it's like, oh, I for sure want to try. I want to at least try this out more so than something else. So that's kind of more what we're getting at, is like what's gonna immediately draw our interest, not totally like this is end all. I only play a game if it has this. So it's kind of, it's a little more floaty. It's not so concrete. So with that being said, Wade, do you want to go ahead and just kick us off and just kind of, besides franchises, what's something that will sway you?
Even with, if you go back far enough, it's because of these things that the franchises pulled me in the first place. But for me, growing up, gaming was a form of escapism. Not just in like a casual, like, I just need something to de-stress and get my mind off of things, but to like remove myself from my life growing up, to put myself in like better circumstances and stuff like that. And so I grew immediately attached to like anything that was fully immersive in a different world, basically. That's why Final Fantasy really, really hit so hard when I was growing up. You have fully developed worlds with lore, with characters who all have relationships to each other, fully moving storylines that go back and forth through, 40 to 60 hour games, things like that. And the music has always been a huge thing in gaming. But you roll all those things together, and that's pretty much me as a gamer. If it's too real, if the game is just too real, like it takes place in the real world, or it's just about mundane things,
like dating simulators.
I suppose so. I guess. Things like sports and racing games.
Right.
They're not for me because those are real things. Switch to Mario Kart. Well, that's not real. You have the use of items and other things that make things a little more chaotic and silly.
Yeah.
But add some fantastical elements to anything, and I'm there.
I've always, I know that you've been more on the side of like the JRPG side of the fence. Mm-hmm. Is there a reason why Western RPGs have never really spoke to you? Like, I know you played some, but like they're more often than not something that you kind of get into.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lot of Western RPGs are more like, they're less fantastical. They're
more grim. A lot of them.
Yeah, kind of. Not necessarily dark. Even it's just like East or Western RPGs are just more based off of real life things, like the Viking concept. Well, here's Skyrim. Although I say that I love Elder Scrolls so much.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty fantastical series.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's plenty of lore to delve into, and
yeah,
and stuff like that.
I think one thing that I've noticed from playing JRPGs and Western RPGs is that JRPGs have more tonal balance, where they have serious moments, they have silly moments, they have charm, they have heart, they have this, that, and they have more of kind of like every thing on the emotional spectrum. And a lot of Western RPGs kind of, I don't want to say one note because I don't want to disparage Western RPGs.
They just kind of focus on a tone.
Yeah, they pick a tone and they kind of stick with that. You have stuff like Dragon Age, and Dragon Age is extremely grim. Like, there's some charming characters and a little bit, but it's very much very dark fantasy, and they kind of stick to that. And they play that pretty hard. You don't have cutesy, silly, funny characters. Kind of play to kind of play that balancing act like a lot of JRPGs do. Like,
right.
And that's something that like can turn a lot of people off, because if you are using gaming as an escapism, you don't want to play something that's incredibly dark and brooding and grim and depressing. So,
Right.
if your life is already shitty, the last thing you want to do is play a game that makes you feel shitty. So, yeah.
Now, I mean, having said that, I've played quite a few JRPGs in my life that like left me in tears several points throughout the stories. But it's the highs and the lows, you know.
Right.
You can't have happy without sad.
Right.
That's just not how it works.
Yeah, those games, at least the ones that I've played, have a lot more like kind of peaks and valleys, as opposed to just kind of like a straight line, you know, or just like a really good just arc, you know. So.
Yep.
What about Wade? What about, is there anything gameplay wise that you either turns you off or is something that's like, you know, that really garners your interest?
Yeah, see, now this is a good question because I really don't know how to answer it. There's not really a type of gameplay that really makes me say, oh, like, oh my god, I really have to play that. As an older person, I'm more on the action side of things.
Yeah, for the listeners out there, Wade is 65.
I am approximately, yes. I mean, I don't mean like as an older gamer in today. I mean like when I was younger, I would prefer
I know.
turn-based, take your time, Pokemon, like that kind of give and take. But these days, I need something to keep me a little more focused when I'm playing.
Right.
So I appreciate, because of that, I appreciate JRPGs have moved towards the more action-oriented aspects of their gameplay. That tends to keep me invested a little better.
Yeah, I can see that. Is there a gameplay mechanic that is almost like an absolute turnoff for you?
First-person shooters. I'm so bad at
Has
it.
that always been the case, or is that something as you've gotten older you're just like, nah, I can't do this anymore?
It's always been the case, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten more used to saying like, no, this isn't for me, instead of like making myself be comfortable with other games to make other people happy, I suppose.
Right.
Like I'm not in games that I play, like I don't tend to like a whole lot of violence in my games. And in most first person shooters, it's, you know, like you're just like, let's go kill the other people. And there's not like a reason to it. That's just the point of the game.
Right.
And that doesn't, I don't get any adrenaline high. I don't get anything out of that. There's no serotonin at all.
Okay.
Yeah, outside of Halo, I love myself some Halo, but
Halo's
there's a lot of
Halo has a fantastic story. Like
there's a lot of stuff in Halo though that grabs me, and then the reward of playing the FPS aspect of Halo is that I get to witness all this other stuff.
Right. It's not like you're playing Halo multiplayer. You know, you're doing the thing just so you can get the story because it's an enthralling story, you know.
You got it.
Yeah. All right, Chelsea, what about you?
I'd say that I'm really into story-driven games, specifically like action adventure or RPG, and I definitely like to play in the third person. I really enjoy the like rich world, or if there's like history involved. I'm also a little bit of some space or superpowers, and of course a little bit of Disney thrown in there. I'll enjoy those games as well. So I think some of the games that like kind of fit that are like Uncharted, Mass Effect, Kingdom Hearts, and like Epic Mickey. So those are kind of like ones that kind of fit some of those elements that I like.
Epic
in games.
Mickey.
Yes.
Hey, don't you be hating on
Hey,
Epic Mickey
no vitriol over here. It's just
Okay, good.
I'm actually kind of sad that didn't continue as a franchise. I feel like off the Wii that could have done some cool things, you know.
For real.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Definitely beautiful art in that game.
Yeah. They could have continued that for sure.
I actually got a T-shirt with that game when I pre-ordered it. In like college, like early college, I think that's when it came out for me. And I wore that shirt all the time just because the artwork on it was so freaking cool. There you go. There's a fact about me. I bet you didn't know.
Well, I have one of those Disney pins that had the logo on it. I collect those Disney pins that like you wear them at the parks with like on the lanyards and stuff. And
Oh,
so that's,
okay.
like,
I was
proudly
thinking
on.
like ink pen.
Oh no,
so
the
so
PIN.
like the
Yeah.
the actual like the ones that you get at the parks.
Yes, yeah. I'm an avid collector of those, and yeah, I think one of them actually came with one of the game I got or something, the Epic Mickey pin. Or I honestly got it from eBay. I'll get those pins. I got a Kingdom Hearts one from eBay. Let's just put it that way.
Hey, no judgment,
yeah.
no shame.
Yeah.
I went to Disney with my band kids a couple years ago, and I spent like I think it was $50 on like the 3 Kingdom Hearts pins that they had.
That's
I went for it. Yep, I hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
Chelsea, you said that you really like playing in the third person. Is there a reason why you don't like first person games?
Yes. So I guess I've just pretty much have always played in third person, and I think it was very hard to get into first person. I have played first person a bit more now and everything, and I know we've played first person together, but that's like one, I don't know if it's like a depth perception thing or something, but like I can't get behind your whole entire TV being like your person. I don't understand how to like walk across like a small little thing so I don't fall off, or like I don't know if I'm ducking if I'm actually not going to get hit or something. I don't know. I have sometimes difficulty with that, and I don't like not seeing my character and know what's going on around me, but I know that's like, kind of part of being the first person is to, you're being in the moment and trying to actually look around you so you know what's going on, but I don't really like that, so.
I agree that I think it's odd for games to choose first person if it's a game that has any amount of customization to it. Like, I always thought it was odd that Destiny, like, it does have some third person elements to it, but primarily you're playing in the first person, and that's a game that's all about creating your own custom guardian, and you
don't
most
get
of the
to
time
see
don't get to see it.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't that a big thing about Cyberpunk too? People were like, "What?
Yeah.
Why do I get to spend all this time here and I never get to see my character?" And
Yeah,
neither does anybody else.
Yeah, you'll spend an hour in character creator, and it's like, great, you'll never see this person. It's like, okay, cool. That was a huge. What was this? A loading screen? Like, what was the point of doing this? Like,
oh man, the secret's out. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah. So I always thought that was weird too. Like if games like like Halo where you're playing as Master Chief and he never changes, or like Doom, like stuff like that, like playing first person where the character is just the character and you don't have any control of how they look, that it's fine. But yeah, I agree. If it's a user created character, then having it in the first person seems extremely odd to me. And it is first person platforming also is never easy. So when you're first person,
that's the truth.
Yeah, like I feel like games have tried with like Mirror's Edge was basically just a first person platformer, and then a lot of modern shooters are trying to add more platforming elements, and it always seems odd and it always seems unnecessarily difficult to do any of those moves in first person. And it doesn't make it any more engaging or I don't know. That's not why first person is platforming is not for first person, really. I will say. I don't think it ever works the way that they think it should. Is there a certain mechanic or anything that is in a game that will sway your attention either one way or the other? I know you said you're really into story driven. I think both of you are probably more on the story content more than gameplay side. But is there a certain gameplay element that's like, oh wow, that's really cool. I really want to try this out, or oh wow, this shit is not for me at all. Like,
yeah, I try to be a little bit more open now with some things, but I'm definitely not really into turn-based games. I think it slows down things for me. I like to be like in the now, in the action, like getting through things and taking my time with these things, not having the game force me to be on its own time to get through things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, turn-based is really good for people who get distracted easily. Because you can get in the action and it's like, oh, it's my turn. I'm gonna go make a sandwich, or let me check my phone, or let me like I grew up playing a lot of turn-based games because that was kind of how RPGs were at the time. I never was really a PC gamer, so a lot of console RPGs and stuff like that were pretty much just turn-based. And I would still play turn-based. Like, I like tactics games, and that's essentially just turn-based, just in kind of like a different viewpoint. So I've always kind of liked, especially being a dad to a toddler, it's very nice to be able to be like, okay, it's my turn. Let me go see what the kid's doing. I gotta change a diaper, or I gotta do this, or I gotta get him a bottle, or it's nice to be able to have that pause, as opposed to playing a game where you're in the thick of it and you just be like, all right, I have to get to a checkpoint before anything happens. Those are not ideal parent games for me.
I can see that. Yeah.
Is there anything else like on the story side of things? Are there particular stories that interest you or don't interest you?
I mean, I don't know if it's a story, but more of like a genre. I mean, I'm not really into horror games. I'm not into horror movies either. That's not something that's for me. I don't like being freaked out by things or really into creepy things just for the sake of being creepy or disturbing.
Oh, like, I hear that. See,
I feel like Wade,
watch...
you're the same way, right?
Well, it's weird. I can watch horror movies and like not even flinch. I'm just like, oh, okay. But like, you put me in like in one of those kinds of games, and I'm like crying. Like, I press start on the menu, and I'm like, please don't make me do it. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Like, I can't, and I don't know if it's because like
it's interactive.
I guess like the player is me, so I'm making these decisions.
Yeah, it puts the agency in your hands. So, as a film, you're just like, oh, that sucks for that character. That you're it's like voyeurism. You're just sitting back and watching something happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're playing the game, it's like it's happening to you, and really good horror games make it feel like it is actually happening to you.
And I just can't.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Bring back Kingdom
I'm not
Hearts,
spending my time on that.
Bring back Kingdom
Hearts.
What?
Oh,
all right, this will never happen. But what if a Kingdom Hearts game was a horror game? Would you play it?
I'd have to, but it's a franchise thing. We just had that conversation.
Right. Yeah, Chelsea. Would you make an exception if one of your beloved franchises went into a genre that you don't like? Would you still play it?
I would have to research it more. I'd have to understand more behind the game and the purpose for it being that particular genre or anything to see if it's actually worth my time. Because
I was gonna say, because I know you're probably gonna say it, but Last of Us is basically a horror game, and I know you've played both of them.
Yes, they were a little difficult to get through. I mean, the second, for obvious reasons, that's just like an emotional roller coaster in general. But the first one, I think it was almost harder for me to get through the first one and being like actually scared playing that game at certain times. If I don't mention this now, I'm gonna get like flack from my family because I honestly did freak out when I played the first Uncharted game.
What?
At the very end, when like the zombies like pop out, I totally did scream. I will admit that. And I was freaked out by that part because they were all coming at me.
No judgment.
Hey, I know. Hey, I'm being honest here, and they were all coming at me. I was like, I am not into this. I don't like this. I got through it though. I beat the game, but doesn't mean I won't scream or yell out every once in a while.
Hey, I play horror games and I scream like a girl and I get freaked out and I'll have to play during the day with the curtains open, the lights on, like, I know how it is. I remember playing the first Last of Us, and I don't ever remember it being scary. I remember it being unsettling, and just like there was situations that made me uncomfortable. That's kind of the bread and butter of that franchise.
I had a lot of anxiety playing through like the
Yeah.
half of that game, or I could only play it. I could only play it for
Yeah.
like an hour at a time because like by an hour into wherever I was just like I was just not doing okay. Like my blood pressure was high. I was like, no, I gotta get out of this. Gotta get out of this.
Now, when I played Last of Us 2, there's a part in that game that takes place in a hospital, and that is some freaky shit. Like that whole, it's a pretty small segment, you know, it's not like a huge part of the game, but it's tense, and it had my anxiety through the roof that whole time.
Gosh, yes.
So I was actually impressed that Chelsea, that you continued pushing through that, because if it was getting my anxiety up, I knew it had to have been a hot mess for you to get through.
Yeah. Well, I kind of was like, knew that something big was going to happen. And I kind of slowly go around every corner. And I just, you know, it just seemed like a part where I just stocked up on all my ammo, everything. I just went in guns blazing when I got to those crazy parts. I'm like, I'm going to give it everything I've got and just die.
Like, this is the end of the game for me. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm like, I will get through this. So, it was a lot, but I'm like, no, I'm going to get through this. The story is what really, you know, brought me in the first time and just kept me going. And just, It was a lot. So I'm like, I'm going to get to the end. I want to know what's going to happen and see how it goes. But it doesn't mean it wasn't difficult in all kinds of levels.
Is there any other kind of, this would be for either one of you, is there any other kind of mechanic in a game, or like a system or something in a game that will kind of turn you off and make you not want to keep playing it? Like, I know, Chelsea, you said you don't really like anything that's like turn-based, anything like that. Because I feel like as games, as the whole medium progresses, more and more systems are introduced, for better or worse. And a lot of people don't like system-heavy games because it does become tedious. Good examples of that is like Red Dead Redemption, where there's just a lot of stuff to worry about. Same with Death Stranding. There's systems on top of systems on top of systems. Since you guys play for story, does any of that stuff like turn you off, even if the story is fantastic, versus like there's just too much like gameplay maintenance I have to worry about? Or do you just trudge through because the story's so good?
Nothing comes to mind in trying to like think of a game that made me have to work too hard, like to get my character set up, or to do, you know, just to continue with the game. I can't really think of anything, so I guess not.
It does kind of affect me. I will say that I do have an example of a game that I haven't gone back to, but it's for a couple different reasons. But one of them was definitely the mechanics, and that was Dragon Age. It's also because it's on the PS3, and I don't really play my PS3 anymore. Like, that's why I'm playing my PS4, so I haven't gone back to it. But
hey, it's on Game Pass.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway. So
I'm trying hard for
have
those sponsor dollars, so you know.
You're getting paid? I'm not getting paid.
Isn't everybody who says they like Game Pass? Isn't that don't we all get paid?
The truth is out. I speak the truth there. Anyway, no kidding. But yeah, so I think that's one of the games that those mechanics were kind of frustrating and stuff. But I did enjoy the story and like the world. But
yeah,
like I said, the other factor was because it was on the PS3 and I had just got the PS4 and I hadn't really gone back.
Yeah,
to those games.
That's part of the reason why, Wade, I know we were talking earlier offline about Dragon Age and how I didn't think that you would like the first one because it is kind of cut from the PC cloth of RPGs, where it is a little bit more tedious doing things. It's not super action oriented. It's pretty slow. And also that story is incredibly dark and unforgiving, and there's not really a whole lot of high moments that make you feel good about really anything. I personally really like that game because I really like dark fantasy, and the writing and the characters are fantastic, but the gameplay is kind of a slog. It's definitely something that you either adjust to it or you just kind of, you know, like Chelsea said, just kind of cut your losses. You
It
know?
does haunt me though.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah, I
finished
mean,
it.
I did that with I bought Inquisition, but I couldn't really get through it. And after I stopped playing it, I realized I wasn't even through the prologue yet, like the tutorial segment of the game.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh well, crap. So,
Inquisition, as that series has gone, and I'm sure Dragon Age 4 will probably do this as well, just because that's kind of how BioWare is moving in that direction. But Inquisition is definitely more like action oriented, and it's a little bit more fast paced. And if you think that game is like overly slow and system heavy, then you will most definitely hate Dragon Age Origins. So, because Dragon Age Origins is nothing like the other two games in that series.
oh boy.
So, Dragon Age 2 is probably the most action oriented one. It was also the one that had half of it. It's kind of like a kind of a sad story for that dev team because they only had like a year to work on it, and it shows because that game is bare bones. It's extremely linear, reused assets, reused maps, reused areas. You know, it's very basic, and you know, with that in mind, they had to make the kind of the gameplay very basic and very just kind of like not quite hack and slash, but pretty damn close. So, and then Dragon Age Inquisition kind of brought it back and made it more of like a full package. But kind of like with Mass Effect, if you guys played the first Mass Effect, it was a little bit more slow, a little bit more RPG oriented. And as that series progressed, it got kind of more into like a cover shooter. So it's kind of just like BioWare's thing, you know. They with Dragon Age, it was very much kind of like a those old like PC RPGs, kind of like how like Fallout was and stuff like that, just kind of very slow, very methodical. And then as the series got older, as it progressed and got a bigger audience, they kind of made it more console friendly and fast paced and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I'm willing to give the new Dragon Age a chance once they start like releasing stuff for it. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I am curious with what the direction for that is gameplay wise. I'll already be interested just because I like the universe of Dragon Age, but I'm kind of curious if they're going to lean really heavy and just trying to make it more an action game, or if they're going to go back to their roots. Because I'd be fine either way, honestly. So,
Right.
I just want it to be good. I have very tempered expectations from anything BioWare touches nowadays. So, but that's for another podcast. That's for another episode.
So, Ethan, what about you?
Yeah, tell us.
Well, I'm the exact opposite of you two. I play games. I play games for gameplay. I don't really. I feel like the story is a bonus. It's never really anything that I go into a game like. Games excite me for kind of the same way with Wade. Like I've always seen it as like escapism. But I don't necessarily mind if it is modern settings because I do love playing sports games. I play football, I play hockey, I play basketball. I love racing games. I love shooters. I grew up playing Doom and Rise of the Triad and Wolfenstein and Quake and stuff like that. At the end of the day, for me, I just want the gameplay mechanics to be tight and to feel right and to be responsive. And it always bugs me when a game has gameplay mechanics that feel kind of choppy, or it wasn't like the emphasis, or they're just kind of like bland. A perfect example, Wade, I know we've talked about it a lot, and I'm sure you still disagree, but one of the main reasons why I kind of jumped off Nier Automata is because I just got bored with just the gameplay loop of it. Because it was very just kind of repetitive, and there wasn't enough gameplay mechanics there to keep me invested in the, I'm sure the story is fantastic if you play all the alphabet endings or whatever, but I need the game to be fun to play for me to progress, and the story is just kind of like a bonus.
Yeah,
I watch movies for stories. I play games for the game. Like
yeah, that's fair.
I'm playing Rage 2 right now, and that's got to be the most batshit dumb story I've ever, at least this year, that I played. But that game is the ultimate power fantasy. Everything just feels right. The gunplay is on point. It's super fun to play. Just blasting people around, driving around the wasteland. The world is really well established. It's very well. It's very the design is on point. It actually feels like an apocalypse. It's not just like, oh, this world's post-apocalyptic. Let's paint it brown and that's it. Like this game has a lot of color. So like for me, I just want the gameplay aspect of it to just really sing. I that's part of the reason why I really like stuff like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, is because those gameplay mechanics are first and foremost like perfect. They feel just tight, and then they kind of just build from there. And that's what I want from my game. Is I want the action, the thing that you're doing to feel perfect, and then everything else is kind of a bonus. Everything else is window dressing to me, you know. A good example was Hades. Hades, the game, playing it just feels amazing. Everything about it just feels right.
Oh yeah, it's nice and smooth.
Yeah, everything about it is smooth. The frame rate, the fidelity, everything's perfect. The controls, like the buttons make sense, what everything does. And that was like, and then like the story, it's actually got like a really well told story, a really, like, really good, like Greek mythology kind of universe that it's built around, and that's all just like kind of just like a bonus. I would have kept playing that game even if the story arc was complete shit, just because it felt so good to play. Same with like, I play sports games because I'm a huge sports fan. I grew up watching sports, so just the idea of playing sports just kind of like, like I'm not an athletic person, so for me it's just like living out a fantasy, like, oh, I get to be an NFL star, I get to play basketball, Same with like racing. I've always liked, like I'm not like a gearhead, but I do like cars, so like racing sims, like your Gran Turismos and your Forzas, like I really like that stuff. I don't really like cartoony racing. Like Mario Kart's fun, but it kind of gets I don't know, old to me. A lot of cartoony racing games kind of just get, especially if you're playing it by yourself, like those are more like party games.
Oh, for sure.
One thing that kind of turns me off on games is games that are purely competitive. I don't like battle royales. I hate them, actually. Like there's not a single thing about the concept of battle royale that interests me. I don't really like playing competitive stuff. I'm more of like a cooperative. Like give me a good co-op game. We'll run through a campaign. Boom, it's awesome. But you put me in a shitty world with 100 other players, and unless you're like an esports player, you die instantly, and it's just starting over. Like that loop, that loop is not fun. There's nothing about it that feels fun. It just is boring and tiresome to me. Same with like really like online shooters. Besides Battlefield, I can't think of another competitive shooter I like to play. I played Halo a lot when it first came out, like LAN parties, but that's mostly because you're playing with friends. So it's more just a way to get everyone together. You hook up all your Xboxes, everybody brings their TVs, you're sitting in different rooms in the house, everybody shit talking, you order pizza, It was more like the gathering that made it fun, not necessarily the game. I don't like getting on there and just playing with like a bunch of random people, unless it is Battlefield. And the reason I like Battlefield is gameplay wise, it's just so fun. It's a perfect realization of like a battle simulator, And it really always has been. It has like the gold standard of like multiplayer, like a shooter multiplayer. Like I love it. I've been playing it since it was on the PC. I'll continue to play it, even though it kind of goes against my interests because I'm not really a competitive person. But I just really love playing Battlefield. It just feels good to me. It feels right. It feels like home, games that are like purely story and the gameplay is like was like secondary, I will play those, but the story really has to sing if I'm gonna play a game that feels like shit or plays like shit or is bland or generic. And if it doesn't hook me within the first couple hours, I will bounce because I don't like playing games that aren't fun to play. You know, that's kind of what it boils down for me. It's like I want a game to be like entertaining. You know, I love the Assassin's Creed games because they're fun to play. I couldn't tell you a single thing what happens in the Assassin's Creed storyline because it's nonsense. But those games are just fun to play, you know? And that's kind of why I play games is I want something to be not only escapist, but I want it to be fun or innovative or unique. Like I want the gameplay to be the shining thing, not necessarily anything else. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason why I've been so kind of against Kingdom Hearts because from a distance, I've always kind of seen that game as like being story first, and the story could be like the most incredible thing in the world. But I've always seen the gameplay as just kind of just like, I don't want to say generic because I don't want to shit on that game at all, but it just doesn't seem like it's robust enough to keep me interested. Like everything I've ever heard about that game is it's like, yeah, it's just simple and easy to play. It's nothing crazy. It's the story that and the characters why people love it. But I don't give a shit about Disney characters or Final Fantasy characters, so that's never really been a draw. So that's why I've never really played that franchise. Like if it was reversed and it's like, oh, you have to play it because it has like some of the best mechanics or some of the tightest gameplay or it's revolutionary in this kind of thing, then that would be why I would try it out.
Yeah, I hear you.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm like a big movie buff because I want the story in the movie to be good. Because I don't have anything else to do with it, But as a game, like I want the game to be a game. I want it to be fun to play. If it's not fun to play, then I don't want to put time into it. But it's hard for me to pick genres because, like I said earlier, I will pretty much try anything. I love anything from like just straight up sims, like simulation games, to RTSs, to 4X RTSs, to turn-based, to action adventure, to horror, racing, sports. Like I kind of card battlers I've been getting into more. Like I can't really think of a genre I haven't touched. And there's usually something in every genre that I've liked. So it's really hard for me. I have franchises that I'll always go to, Halo being one of them, just because I really love the lore and the storyline. I'm invested. But there's been franchises that, like Mass Effect, I never played Andromeda just because I think I tried twice, and it felt so shitty to play. Like, it just didn't feel right. It felt like my character was walking through, like, sludge, and I just hated the way it felt, so I just always bounced off it, And the fact that game kind of is fairly divisive didn't really give me a lot of extra weight to push through it,
Right.
Like, if the game doesn't feel good to play or, it's really hard for me to want to stick with it.
That says a lot about a lot of games,
Yeah.
Like, if you're not enjoying playing the game, don't play the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're not being held to any expectation.
Yeah.
Like, gamers can get really bad about this. You don't, like, just because it's a big game, just because it's whatever, doesn't mean that you have to play the game, or you have to enjoy playing the game, or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes a game will get, sometimes it'll kind of overstay its welcome, and like once the kind of the nuance of the gameplay itself kind of wears thin, if the story's not really, really good, there's really no reason to keep going, And that's how backlogs get filled up with like, oh yeah, I have like 40 games and I have 10 hours in all of them, and I'll probably never finish any of them, Like that's how that happened. And a lot of people get kind of hung up on that idea where it's like, well, I have this backlog, I have to finish it. And it's like, yeah, well, if you didn't like playing it or you bounced off it, there's a reason for that, and you don't have to go back. Right. Like unless there's something that you really want to, like, if you just didn't play because you ran out of time or something else came out and you were meaning to go back to it, it's different. But I feel like a lot of people get hung up on the fact that they're like, oh, well, I have to roll credits on this game even though I don't like playing it. It's like, nah, you don't.
No, you do not.
Oh, I sometimes feel like that though because I spent all that money on that game. I need to.
Oh, for
it.
sure. There's always the pressure,
Yeah. So
that's why Game Pass is. That's why Game Pass is brilliant. Because it's like I can fire up a game on Game Pass and play an hour and be like, nah, this isn't for me, and I'll never have to touch it again. And I don't feel compelled to because I didn't spend $70 on it, But I do sometimes fall into that trap where it's like, oh, I did pre-order this. It's been, I got the special edition. It was $100. I should probably at least finish it. Like I've definitely fallen into that trap before. But you shouldn't feel compelled to. That money's already gone, so it's already spent. But yeah. I can't really think of. You guys got any questions for me? Anything you wanna know? Anything you want cleared up?
Well, I mean, do you have any like go-to genres right now that you've noticed, or are you still just playing a little bit of everything? Which I kind of feel like is probably your answer.
Yeah, I don't think I have a go-to genre or like a fallback, but I will say, probably in the last few years, I have gotten more and more into horror games than I ever did before. Like, I used to play horror games kind of based off of, like merit. If like, a lot of people were talking about, like, oh, you should really play this. Like, Resident Evil 4 is a good example. That was, like, game of the year. Everybody was talking about how amazing it was, this, that, and the other. So I was like, oh, I should probably try this out. Everyone's talking about how brilliant it is. I should probably at least play it. But at that time, I never really played horror games, But now I feel like, same with film, I feel like we're kind of in like a horror renaissance where not only are there more of them, but the quality of them is a lot higher. And there's some just horror games that are just really, really good. And yes, they will scare the shit out of you. And they're, anxiety inducing and this, that, and the other. But sometimes they're just like, like the new Resident Evil Village is killing it. Like, people are loving it. It looks fantastic. Like, I haven't seen any really complaints about that game. I can't wait to get my hands on it. But even like Resident Evil 2 Remake, that game is like pure polish. It's so much fun to play. I don't really think it's scary, but there are some areas, like, not necessarily like jump scares, but it is creepy, just based on like atmosphere, and there is some more like tension because you're being chased by a entity basically the whole game. So, an indestructible source. So it does add tension, but it's not like scary. It's like a different, it's different. But yeah, it's not really like, horror isn't a genre I fall back on, but it is something that has been more and more a part of my rotation more than it ever has been. I guess if I had to pick something that was a fallback, it probably would be shooters, because for the most part they're like 6 to 8 hours, and it's just like pure like gameplay bliss. Because like what he was saying earlier, why he didn't like them is the reason I love them. Because it's like junk food, You just get in, you do a bunch of bullshit, a couple hours, and you jump out, and you don't have to have any comprehension of why or or any any of that stuff. It's just, you just get in, you do the thing, and you hop out, and that's really all I need sometimes. It's just like comfort food,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's what video games should be. Period. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
They really shouldn't be anything other than that.
Yeah, especially for me, like, as I get older, I'm a dad now. My time is limited, so it is easier for me to get in these bite-sized experiences, as opposed to starting something I know is going to take me 100 hours and that I really want to be invested in to like totally grasp all the concepts and the big, the philosophical this and whatnot. Like, it's really hard for me to do that now because I usually put my gameplay is extremely limited, and if I play for 30 minutes and that for that whole week, by the time I fire up that game again, I'm not gonna fucking remember anything I did, or who's who or what's what or the story or any of that stuff. So it is nice to have just like some junk food games where I can just get in there, kill some zombies or blow up some whatnots, and that's it. That's it. That's all I need. So yeah.
There you go.
Well, I've got a question for the both of you here.
All right, what's up?
Is there a game like from your childhood that you could always go back to because you're going to feel good playing it?
Oh, I mean, like you, Wade, I've been playing games for 20 some odd years now. Starting out playing stuff on the NES, playing a lot of those games. I usually don't go back and play a lot of retro stuff for nostalgia or really any reason, just because I feel like I have so much stuff in the current that I want to play that I don't really have like a feel good game to fall back on. I guess the only example of that I have would be a Halo, and that's and that was like what, 2002, 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but we were like 12, that fits the category,
Yeah, but like that's something that I will always kind of go back and play, just because even though like from a gameplay standpoint it's definitely aged and it doesn't feel as good as modern shooters, but like you said, that story is so damn good that that may be one of the few franchises that I've played half a dozen times and never get tired of it. But like the idea of going back and playing stuff like Mario, like the OG, like I just don't. It just doesn't do anything like a lot of those early games that I played. I never really have gone back to play them again or to finish. Mm-hmm. Like on the Wii or the Wii U, I can't remember which, and the Switch, when they have like the virtual console and they bring back these old NES and SNES games. Mm-hmm. I think that's super cool, but I'll never play any of them. Even if I haven't, or even if it's something I finish and it's like, oh yeah, I remember playing this game, that was really cool, I don't feel compelled to fire it up again.
Yeah.
So just because some of them have like kind of aged out of it, where I'm just like, God, this game feels awful, and I hate it. And I almost don't want to go back and play stuff like that because it may ruin my nostalgia.
Tarnish that. Yeah.
I just want to kind of keep my my memory happy.
That's fair.
So, Chelsea, what about you?
I think for me, I don't think there's any like games that I would play by myself, like any type of single player games or anything that I like could go back to or like would fall back on. But I do think that if like I were to visit my family or anything and they were like, hey, we still have like our like Wii system or whatever, or like whatever various systems, and they're like, you want to play like Dance Dance Revolution or like Rock Band and stuff, I'll be like, yeah, I'll be game for that. My family it loves to play games. They're pretty competitive. We have video games, card games, board games, anything like that. Yeah. And so like, or if my parents, I think they'll still do it every once in a while, they'll like break out Tetris and play it on a system. If I'm like visiting, I'll play Tetris against them. Or,
you bring up Tetris. Yeah, I still am guilty of having Tetris on my phone, and that's just like oh yeah, let me fire up a game of Tetris real quick and play.
Don't feel guilty. I have Tetris too.
Yeah,
don't worry.
That's definitely something that I think puzzle games are something that never really get old, because if the puzzle mechanic was solid then, it's still solid now.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think the puzzle game genre is something that's almost like basically timeless. and I really like puzzle games. I'm not the smartest person in the room, so some of them infuriate me because it makes me feel like more of a dipshit than I already am. But I really like playing them because a lot of them are mechanically sound because that's all it is. It has to be, you know. And some of these games like Baba Is You are just like these like crazy technical masterpieces. God. I'm just like, how does this even work? This is nonsense. I love it.
Completely forgot about Baba Is You. Oh my god.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Like I really like those small experiences of puzzle games. I'm not really big into the like Myst or The Witness, where it's just like, hey, I'm gonna drop you on this big mysterious island and tell you nothing and go, because that's not fun for me because I'm too dumb to understand the context or to figure out what I'm supposed to do. So I just wander around and just frantically click on everything hoping something happens. Like that's me. But yeah, like you said, Chelsea, Tetris is a good one. That's a good. Yeah. And you mentioned board games. I feel like board games, especially since they are like a more community focused, you're playing with other people. Like that's always something to fall back on, because you're just playing with others, And if it is a nostalgic game like a Clue or something, for the most part, everyone knows how to play that, so you don't have to spend 45 minutes explaining this game. It's just like, oh no, let's play some Clue or let's play some Monopoly. Like I kind of fall in that same category. Like board games are always a good fallback, But yeah, video games not so much. I don't really go backwards in gaming too much. Wade, do you have one? Since you had the question, do you have something in mind?
Yeah, I have a good group of games that that I can always go back to, and I frequently do, just because they're such a strong part of me that I don't ever have any issues. Like the biggest one that I can always go back to is Final Fantasy IX.
Yep.
Yeah, because I know you've played 9, and I know like the battle system's a little outdated because it's a little slow. I can get past that, especially if you have like the remastered versions where you can like multiply the speed.
Yeah,
that was the greatest thing they could have ever done to that game. But going through that story again, getting to like go through everything with the characters and revisit like their traumas, but like their victories and their triumphs and stuff. Yeah. That's always pretty feel good. But also at any point, I'm always playing through one Pokemon game or another.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on them. So I guess that could be in that category too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have gone back and played older. I didn't grow up playing Pokemon, the games, really. Like, I remember I did play Pokemon Red, but I never owned any of the handheld Nintendo consoles myself, so I only got to play these things when I was with friends. Like, my first Nintendo handheld was the Switch, so...
Crazy.
I never owned any of the handhelds. I was very much just a console kid. I didn't even own the Super Nintendo. I just had the regular Nintendo, and then I had a Genesis. And then the next thing I got was... I think I was one of the poor saps that got a 32X. and then we got a Nintendo 64. So yeah. There was a really cool game on the 32X, though. It was like Star Wars Trench Run. And basically the whole game was you just like flying the X-Wing through the trench to blow up the Death Star.
Best game cool. Ever.
Yeah, it was. I remember it being really cool. But yeah, I don't know. Is there you guys got anything else? You got anything else to throw out there? This is your only chance.
I'm good.
All right, cool. Then yeah, I guess that's it for that seg. So yeah, I guess we already talked Loki, so I guess we can go ahead and put a little bow on this episode and be done with it. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Well, as always, like and subscribe. Send us reviews. we could use reviews, especially 5-star reviews. But you know, if you want to throw a 1-star, make sure you leave us a comment why it's 1 star. I really want to read that. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at demasteredpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at poddemastered. And as always, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week. Bye!